Oh, Headhunter. Yo, there's the belt. Okay, Headhunter 2. Straight up unlucky. Headhunter, another one. There we go, guys. The rarity. The rarity. Another tank. 2 locks? We just do 2 locks? Yo, wait. I love Breach, dude. I love Breach. Yeah, I think maps will go away in a second. Headhunter? Wait, my 4th one. Dude, how do I have 4 headhunters and 0 mage floods? Hey guys, I want to make an updated Breach guide going over, the best farm in the entire league. Going over why it's the best farm and all that. I want to go over everything in this video. I have done dozens upon dozens, hundreds and hundreds of Breach maps at this point, testing all different type of setups. I want to make this video to give you the best setup you can possibly run. And as you can see, I have 829 raw divine drops. Pretty much 95% of this is from Breach with 41 sacred orbs. And unfortunately, unlucky on mirrors. I probably should have already averaged a mirror drop by now. It's kind of unlucky. So I want to go over everything about Breach in this video. So first things first, let's go over my notepad where I wrote down pretty much everything you need to know. So yeah, going over the best farm in the game, Breach. And this will be going over the expensive version. So not the cheap version, this is the expensive Breach, which I think is very well worth running. So currently the farm at my speed is 35 to 40 divines an hour. This is at 10 maps an hour. And keep in mind, this doesn't count for hive blood that you get, which you get a ton in this farm. Like, I don't know, 100k hive blood or 80k hive blood an hour. And mirror lock ratio and tier 0 drops like Headhunter and Mage blood. I've already dropped 4 Headhunters, 2 Defiants, 2 Infernal Edges, 0 Mage bloods unfortunately, but on average I should have one already. So yeah, you drop a ton of uniques in this farm. Now, of course, I also have dropped 3 locks so far, and hopefully we'll drop a mirror as well soon. So once you actually average all this in, the farm easily goes up to 55 to 60 plus divines per an hour long term, which makes this overall easily the best farm in the entire game, and nothing else really comes close to that once you include long term averages. On top of that, it's also one of the best EXP farms in the game, extremely good EXP, and it's also one of the best gold farms in the game. As you can see, I have 128 million gold. So yeah, these are the reasons why Breach is easily the best farm in the game if your build can do it. You really want to play some explode based build, a wander based build, or a bow based build. Not like every build can do this because you do want to be fast and efficient. Like I said, I'm doing 10 maps an hour. So if you can only do like 5 or 6 maps an hour, only expect like 18 to 20 divines an hour. My character is always extremely juice, fully min max, multi-mirror gear, and all that. So just keep that in mind if you are going to run the strat yourself. If your character is not as good, strat will still be good no matter what. You always make profit. Of course, if you're not as fast, you won't make as much money. And just go over some quick wealthy exiles. I've been taking dozens upon dozens of snapshots, as you can see. So I can have like my older one saved at this point. But yeah, this was like a 10 map test. This was 62 divines an hour. Go to another one. This one was 74 divines an hour, 27, 51 divines an hour. Of course, this is all before cost, and I'll go for cost in a bit. This one was roughly the same, 50 divines an hour with 76 divines in net in an hour and 31 minutes. So yeah, all pretty much roughly the same. I've tested so many different setups. Each one of these were different setups, like different Scarab setups, to really find the best one. As you can see, they're all roughly really high div an hour, usually ranging anywhere from like 50 to 60 divines before cost, which I will go over. So what are the main different variants and which one should you do? So the 4 main Scarabs that you pretty much never replace is 2 instability, 1 bloodlines, 1 whiz Scarab, and then X. With a Breach Ash Slope, you always want to use Breach Ash Slope. It's always worth it. The last Scarab is either Cascade, Risk, or Sinistral. These are the 3 I tested, and I need more testing on the Double Whip setup. Double Whips might be good, but I haven't done enough maps to make a conclusion yet. That could be a 4th Scarab you could run. So yeah, you're doing 2 of these, 1 Bloodlines, 1 Whips, and the last one is either going to be Cascade, Sinistral, or Risk. And I'll go over all the setups in this video. So personally on my testing, Cascade and Risk were top tier, and Sinistral fell slightly behind. I was surprised with Sinistral being slightly worse, but I found out that 100% increase on prefix does not get increased by map effect on the Atlas tree. So the whole point of running Sinistral is that when you use it on a map, you double your prefix, so you have 2 more currency rolls on your prefix. It'll be 90% more currency. You double it to 180%. The issue is that double amount does not get increased by all your map effect. So for example, instead of having 286% more currency on your map, it'll only roll 233% more currency, which heavily devalues this Scarab. And at least overall my testing, did make it the worst setup out of all three. Like I said, I've tested dozens, hundreds and hundreds of maps at this point. It did fall behind both setups, unfortunately. Now, Cascade versus Risk. So over my numerous tests, they seem to be roughly the same amount of currency, raw currency drops for an hour, with Risk slightly pulling ahead, although this could be some margin of error. It was only like 5 to 10% better. Cascade, however, does provide slightly more uniques, and I think this might be due to Cascade providing rarity to monsters as well as quant. So you do get more uniques with Cascade. So if you run a magnifying character, there's some more value there. TLDR with no rarity on gear, I would run the Risk setup to save, half a divine on a map cost. Because currently, as you can see, Cascade is quite expensive. Most people are running this. This is currently half a divine. While Risk is only 20C. So it's way cheaper, right? This is like 1/15th of the divine. You save a lot of currency here. If you do have character rarity though, I have like 300% rarity, then feel free to try out Cascade, as you will drop more uniques, more chance at Mage Blood, more chance at Headhunter, as stuff like Headhunter still has a lot of value this league. If your build's on the weaker side and you cannot run all map mods, then Sinistral is still a viable option. While it is the weakest out of all three options, it is kind of the easiest because it's only 3 prefix modifiers, and the prefix modifiers honestly aren't all that dangerous. It's just like Monster Life, Reflect, you get into Reflect, the chainsaws and stuff like that. It's overall definitely the easiest setup here. Cascade can be quite tough because the mobs can be quite tanky at the end of the breach, and that makes each breach in the map more difficult than the last one, so it can be quite hard. Now going on to the best maps to run, the best layouts, 6 mod versus 8 mod, and tier 16.5 full Mirage maps. So the best map to run is by far Dunes. Dunes is easily the only map you want to run. This is just because the Dunes layout for Breach spawns the most amount of mobs. It's also extremely fast to boss rush at the same time. It's just by far the best Breach map. The issue with the other popular map, Jungle Valley, which some people are doing, it's just not a good Breach map. It has one benefit where you don't need to boss rush. It's just only, player alters, which is nice. But boss rush in Dunes is very, very fast. It's like 10 seconds. Not that bad whatsoever. But Jungle Valley does fall behind because you do lose monsters on this map. I would not run this map unless you just really, really want to be lazy. It is just an inferior map to run over Dunes. Jungle Valley does have some merit on the cheap breach stat because you can rush the map faster, which will result in more volts per an hour. So the good thing about Jungle Valley, the volts down here on the bottom left, they have divines pretty often. So if you're doing a cheap breach strat, there is some more value here because you will make a little bit more profit back from doing your volts if you do stuff like a Delirium Astrolabe. But yeah, on an expensive breach strat, you should pretty much always be running Dunes. It is just by far the best to get the most out of your maps in terms of returns, because these maps are quite expensive to run. Usually, roughly 2 divines per map, if not 3 to 4 divines, depending on the strat you're running. Now, talking about 8 mods and 6 mods. Currently, the main issue with 8 mods, and the reason why you shouldn't be doing them, they're not really efficient, is that they're way too expensive. Just to show some prices here, this is currently a 8 mod with 140% more currency, the min currency I'm looking for, because anything below this currency is just going to be worse than a 6 mod map. Essentially, it goes from 46 currency to 90% currency to 140% currency. So if you're running 8 mod, you need to run 140% currency. If you're running 90% more currency, it's just going to be worse than a regular 6 mod map that has 140% itself, right? As you can see, I'll research again here. They're 2 divines each, and they quickly go to 3 divines. There's only like 5 maps up for 2 divines each. So at this price, it's just never worth running 8 mods. They're completely inefficient to run. You're spending essentially double your investment per map, and you're definitely not getting double the amount of returns. If anything, an 8 mod compared to 6 mod, it might be roughly like 20 to 25% better loot. But, once again, you're spending 2 to 3 divines per map, and the supply is also extremely limited versus just running 6 mods, which are, 0.2 to 0.2 divines per map. But yeah, a 6 mod roughly has 106% more currency with Chisel. It rolls anywhere from 140 to 200%, depending on how many more currency rolls you get. For roughly 0.2 to 0.3 divines, and 8 mod is 144% more currency for 2 to 3 divines. The price, this really does not make it worth it. 6 mod, you get to use Deli Orbs, so you get 40 to 50% more multiplicative quant on your map. 8 mods get higher pack size and map quant. At current prices, 8 mods just double your investment per map, and will definitely nowhere even come close to double your return. So it's just really just not worth running. If you're doing group play, some 3-man, some 6-man, there is some more merit here. Well, in that case, maybe you should do full Mirage maps. But as solo, it is just inefficient to run these 8 modded maps. And then full Mirage tier 16.5 maps have the same issue. It's roughly 2.4 divines per map, 2D for a map, 0.4 divines for the currency chisel, and you cannot split the map because it has an enchantment where you can split maps of the regular tier 6.5s. And these heavily increase your map time as well. So while you may get overall a good map return, your maps are pretty much going to be, near double the time. That is something to take into consideration as well. I do think the tier 16.5 full Mirage maps have some merit to run this on your very last Astrolabe map. The reason for that is that the Astrolabe makes it so that each map that you complete makes the breach in the next map even more juicy. So by the time you get to the last map in the full Astrolabe chain, it becomes extremely juicy. You get a ton of loot. It's extremely noticeable. So maybe in those scenarios, when your last map is on Dunes and there's no other Astrolabe map here, you could maybe justify a tier 16.5 map to get the most out of that, highest juice map. Now, lastly, let's go how to roll your maps. So first things first is that you need currency chisels. These are extremely good, and yes, at their current price, they are still worth using. They're roughly 1/3 of a divine right now, and the reason why they're always pretty much worth using is the fact that you can split your maps. So what you do, you also get your tier 6.5, the rolls don't matter, use your chisel, go to Bestiary, and use the Ephemeral Plague Arachnid Beast to split your map. This will make your map go in 2, and the currency chisel applies to both, essentially duplicating your chisel. So you need 3 yellow beasts for this and 1 Ephemeral Plague Arachnid. This is like 20C at the moment, and yellow beasts are like 1 to 2C. So essentially like, 24C or so for this setup, and it saves you 100 chaos because the chisel currently is like 120 chaos. Very well worth doing. It's very fast. I would recommend to do this. It saves you a ton of currency. Essentially every single split is 0.3 divines. You can usually do something like 50 maps in like 5 minutes. It's honestly pretty fast. Past that, you want to aim for 2 currency rolls. So this is 90% more currency without chisel, 140% with chisel. Like you can see here, all these maps are over 140% more currency. You usually average around 160% more currency or so, because they go anywhere from 140 to 200%. Do try to save your most juicy maps for the last map in Astrolabe chain. So if I have a 200% more currency map, I'll save it for that, because you get the most amount of value out of that. Of course, pack size is also good, but you are mainly just focusing on the more currency here. Also, use Scour and Alks to efficiently roll your maps. You can use Chaos, but Scour with Alks, at least in my opinion, is so much more efficient to roll your maps. All you do is that, if you didn't know, you can hold down Alt while holding down your Alchemy Orb, and this will scour maps, and you let go of Alt, and then you can scour. This makes it really fast and efficient to roll all your maps. Of course, also have a Regex. I use this Regex right here. Essentially, all this does is block Tentacle Fiends and looks for 140% more currency. I just don't like running Tentacle Fiends. I can run all map modifiers really easily, but Tentacle Fiends is quite annoying. So you put your Regex in, you outcore your maps, quickly scour, Alk again, right? And it's overall relatively pretty fast for your maps. I can usually roll like 40 or so maps in less than 10 minutes. So it's honestly pretty fast. It's definitely way faster than buying maps as well. And lastly, you want to use anywhere between 2 to 5 Delirium Orbs. So this can be any Delirium Orb. I just use currency to get some bonus, currency drops. But any Delirium Orb, each Delirium Orb provides 10% more quant per an orb used. So you run 80 to 100% more deli if you can handle it. Your builders on the weaker side run like 2 deli orbs. You still get 20% more quant there. But yeah, I run 8% right now. Might be going up to 100% soon to see how it feels. But yeah, overall, you always want to be using deli orbs because it gives more monster quant multiplicative bonus. So I just get 40% more loot in this map because it has 80% delirium. And just to quickly go over map costs for this video, the current map costs, you're looking at 1.3 divines per bloodlines, 0.3 divines per map cost. So this is chisel plus split plus the cost of map rolling, 0.1 divines in other scarabs, or 0.6 divines if using the Cascade Scarab. Then 2 divines per breach Astrolabe, and each Astrolabe lasts for roughly 6 maps. So average a 0.3 divine added to map cost. At total, you're looking at 2 divines per map with the risk setup, or 2.6 divines per map with the Cascade setup. Also, of course, 2 divines per map if you're using the Sinistral Scarab. Just to quickly show you the prices real quick, yeah, as you can see, Bloodlines is 1.2 divines. Then we go to Currency Soul, 118. Cascade, roughly half a divine right now. Actually, a little bit over half a divine. Wisp, 4C, pretty much free. Instability, 8C each, so very low cost, can divines like 350. Risk Scarab, 20 chaos, so substantially cheaper than the Cascade Scarab. And then Astrolabe is currently pretty much sitting at exactly 2 divines. So yeah, that's the current prices as of this recording. So yeah, 2 divines for the risk setup and 2.6 divines if using the Cascade setup. So I want to also quickly go over the Atlas tree. There's not much to talk about here, but there will be a link down below, of course, to the whole Atlas tree. Essentially, you're just taking all the map effect nodes, pretty much every single breach node, because all the breach nodes are pretty good. We're also going to block the White Fortress and the tower defense one. You just want the pure unstable breaches. All the map effect nodes, and then Beyond. Beyond is very, very strong, especially when you take this Beyond right here, which makes your Beyond units drop 30% more currency. Very, very nice for our currency strat. I am also taking these ready nodes. I think these ready nodes are pretty good. Like I said, you do drop a lot of tier 0s. I do think these are worth taking, although you definitely could spec out of them if you want to. The only really different thing you can do here is take out these two rarity nodes right here to take this Wrath of the Cosmos. This does work when you get double altars. It makes your second mod double the effect. But it does also increase the downside by 100%. You get like negative 100% resist. So it is also quite rippy. I wouldn't really recommend the average player to take this because yeah, it is honestly quite rippy and you need quite a good character. You have to take Synthesized ability. This is how your Echelobes never go away. You can always run the same map over and over and over. That is a mandatory node to take. And then of course we're taking blue altars for better quant, currency dupe and all that. And that's mostly about it here. The only new thing I'm really taking here is map wheel, not for more map drops, but it has 10% increase in our rares. I think this 10% increase on our matter pack size would also be quite good, and you could definitely go for this. It's 6 points, but yeah, it is quite out of the way, which is an issue. But yeah, that is mostly about it for the Atlas tree. And that's pretty much about it for this video. I hope I went over everything in this video, covering every single strat for Breach, covering all the different types of Scarabs for Breach, and hope you understand everything you need to do to run the strat efficiently. Do use Wealthy Exile though to track your currency gains, because Wealthy Exile will easily tell you how much currency per hour you're making. A lot of people always say like, oh, I'm losing money doing this strat. And it's just never true. You can't really lose money running this strat if you're doing it correctly. So do use Wealthy Exile to, keep track of your currency. Yeah, this strat is extremely lucrative. Like I said, for me, it's around like 40 divines an hour. If you're gonna be less efficient, a little bit slower player, maybe like 20 divines an hour. But overall, it's definitely the best strategy in the game. And yeah, that's pretty much about it.